Hey, it's Tim. One question I get a lot from folks is does my insurance policy protect me if I get sued? And obviously that's a pretty broad question, but generally speaking, your homeowner's insurance is going to protect you and defend a lawsuit if you get sued personally. But not always. And so I want to talk about a couple of the big reasons that you might get sued that you might not have coverage for. So the first one is if you sit on a nonprofit board. It's fantastic to sit on a nonprofit board. It's really important to sit on a nonprofit board. Nonprofit boards need good leadership and good advice from folks, because the last thing I want to do is talk anybody out of that. But if you do decide to sit on a nonprofit board, the first thing you need to ask that nonprofit is, do you have directors and officers insurance? That's the insurance that protects the board members if the board members get sued for a decision they made being on a nonprofit board, or even just for sitting on the board at all. You might be surprised to know that some attorneys and plaintiffs will sue a nonprofit that does really fantastic work for the community. Attorneys will still sue those organizations whether it's warranted or not. So if you're on a board and there's no directors and officers insurance, you could end up defending that lawsuit yourself. And so the thing you want to do is make sure you ask about that directors and officers insurance, and whether there's insurance or not, you can actually ask your home insurance agent whether coverage might be available on your home insurance or potentially your personal umbrella. You want to make sure you have one of those two. If you don't have that coverage, you might want to rethink sitting on that nonprofit board. So that's the first big one. The second area where you could end up in a lawsuit that probably wouldn't be covered is if you have household help that sues you for what's called an employment lawsuit. So typically if you have household help and let's say they slip and fall or they cut their finger, maybe cooking for the family or something along those lines, typically that stuff is fine. That's going to fall under workers' compensation. But some other areas, like let's say your housekeeper sues you for harassment, or your gardener sues you for wrongful termination because you didn't use his services anymore, or bullying, it doesn't have to have actually happened. There just needs to be an allegation that it happened. If it's from household help, you're probably not going to have a lot of witnesses to corroborate whatever the other person's version of events is. So having a coverage called employment practices liability is really important. And for most folks with a household employees, you probably don't have that coverage. It is something that's come out now that's available on some home insurance policies and umbrellas. So definitely something you want to ask your insurance agent about to at least know if you have that coverage or not. So hopefully these aren't things that keep you up at night. Personal liability in your home policy does protect you from most things, but not all things, and so you always want to know what to ask. Have a great day.